would like to call to order the April 6th business meeting agenda for the Lewis County Board of County Commissioners. All three commissioners are present. Commissioner Schulte, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the BOCC minutes for March 30th, 2015.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 30th, 2015. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, I move to,
We have a public comment. So we have two individuals who want to make public comment today. First is Ron Averill of Centralia.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Ron Averill from Centralia is signed in 2523 Graff Road. What I wanted to talk to you about this morning is that the House, the House of Representatives put out their capital budget last Friday, and it's very advantageous to Lewis County. What's great about this budget, it was what we would call a collective budget because it passed 96-2. So I expect that that this budget will be picked up by the Senate, and that the things that are of concern to us will get through. But what is great about it is that $86,324,000 from the capital budget will be spent in Lewis County, including the Central Community College's Commons building, the $3 million for Cascade to put in the ENT beds.
Which is just down the street from us.
Just down the street from us, and something that we sorely need, and really nice to see that get on the budget. There are a number of other budgets that are ecology and things like that. I was a little bit concerned when I started looking into the budget, and I discovered that the Flood Authority was totally unfunded. And that was because when you go into the OFM budget, there's a new line item. And as it's called catastrophic flood relief. And the governor recommended that be $30 million. This budget is for $50 million, which means that of that budget, 26,800,000 will go to the main project of the dam and the fish restoration, and 23.2 million will go to local projects. So this is really good news for us. It will be moving forward, moving to try to resolve our flood problems that we have in the area. I made copies of this for you, and I'll leave them with Carrie.
And in addition to that, I understand when we talk about some of the money for the dam or water retention facilities for permitting, so we're moving forward on that. So, okay.
The thing in that is the EIS that needs to be done, because that is what determines whether we go or not.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Bob Bozarth.
Good morning, Commissioners. I've got just a couple comments and a question. First of all, I would like to thank whoever's responsible, and I think you all are, for having these meeting minutes and videos put up in a timely manner. It's been very much improved over the last month or so, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. The other question is, probably 3 or 4 months ago at minimum, we have approached you about supporting the Sheriff's Department and the Commissioner's Office, or excuse me, the Prosecutor's Office, in not supporting 594 in Lewis County. They have both departments have came out with public statements, and we have asked you to support them by a resolution. And I know that we've seen it on the whiteboard, and I was just wondering what the status of that is.
We're still working on language of that. I strongly support that. How it actually gets worded is still being discussed. We're working with Glenn Carter on that, so hopefully before too much longer, we'll have a resolution along those terms.
And we're also watching what's happening statewide. As you know,
Well, we appreciate that. And speaking of statewide, you can see that this has become a perpetual problem. The more time goes on, the more problems we're getting out of it. It's kind of similar to Obamacare. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else on public comment?
That's it, the end.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the notice agenda, 2 items, resolution number 15109 and 15110.
I second.
Okay. Mr. Elsey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsey, Public Works Director, speaking to both of those items. Item number 1 on your notice agenda is regarding the acceptance of a bid on tax title property located off of Eureka Avenue in Centralia, Washington, and this is resolution number 15-109. The attached resolution would accept a bid on tax title property located off of Eureka Avenue in Centralia and give notice of the sale. The tax parcel is a .16 acre vacant parcel located off Eureka Avenue in Centralia. The property was offered for sale by auction at the by the treasurer due to tax delinquencies. Property did not sell at the tax sale and was subsequently deeded by the treasurer to Lewis County. RCW 3635-150 allows for the property to be disposed of by private negotiations, providing that the final sale price is no less than the principal amount of unpaid taxes, and that principal amount is $152.40. The adjacent property owner has now offered to purchase the property for $537.40. This resolution would accept the bid subject to conditions of Lewis County Code 3.30.390, which requires that the proposed sale be noticed in a legal newspaper of general circulation at least once a week for 2 consecutive weeks.
Okay. Any questions? That one. Okay.
The next item is item number 2, notice of hearing, amending the 2015 annual construction program and the 2015 to 2020 6-year transportation improvement program. The hearing will be held on or after 10 a.m. on Monday, April 20th. This is resolution number 15-110. As you're aware, every year you adopt the 6-year transportation improvement program and the annual construction program. And this is amending both of those. And to give you just a quick overview of the major changes, under the countywide bridge road bank protection, this is for Euler Road and at milepost 3.24 bridge scour. This will increase the federal STP, or Surface Transportation Program, bridge funding from $74,000 to $217,000 for preliminary engineering and construction in 2015. It will also amend CRP number 2159G, and that's PL McDonald Road at milepost 8.68. This is also a bridge scour project, and this will increase the federal STP bridge funding from $111,000 to $239,000 for preliminary engineering and construction in 2015. We'll also amend CRP County Road Project number 2174. This is a 2015 county safety program. It will increase the federal highway safety improvement program funding from $800,000 to $1,322,000, $387,000. Let me say that one more time.
Okay.
I was having trouble following.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not so good, and sometimes I'm worse. $1,322,387, and add $11,038 matching funds for preliminary engineering and construction in 2015. The matching funds are for preliminary engineering only. And then the final change will be to County Road Project number 2130. This is the Coughlin Road Bridge number 36 deck replacement. This will add $10,000 of county funds and construction to the Transportation Improvement Program and the annual construction program due to continuing work on the resolution of the deck surfacing issue. So this will come to hearing on April 20th, 2015.
Okay. Any questions for the board?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve notice agendas item number 1 and number 2, resolution number 15-109 through 110. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 6, resolution number 15111 through 15114.
I second.
All right, resolution number 15-111. It's approving 326 regular warrants for a total payment of $725,330.40, and payroll warrants, 181 of them, and 457 automatic deposits for $3,251,698.79. Okay. Yes.
Resolution number 15112, this is a bid award for the 2015-2016 legal printing. We received 2 bids, the Chronicle and the East County Journal, and this year's bid will go to the East County Journal. They bid $5.60.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Michael Strozik, Director of Central Services. Item number 5 on your agenda is resolution number 15-113. It's declaration of surplus property. Central Services Department is responsible for all the surplus property that is generated by Lewis County government. And we come forth before the board every quarter with a list of surplus property that no longer meets our needs and has useful life anymore. And this is the first quarter award. There's approximately 250 items ranging from filing cabinets to computers to, I saw some out-of-date radar units from the Sheriff's Department and stuff. These items will now be put out to the smaller governmental entities and stuff like that to see if they are interested in them, and then finally we will put them, advertise them for sale on publicsurplus.com, who we have a contract with.
So if a citizen, they would go to publicservice.com to find out the list of items?
Correct. We will have a link on our website when it is ready to go out for public bid. Item number 6 on your agenda today is resolution number 15-114. It's authorizing additional funds to the Southwest Washington Fair Office revolving account. This is something new that we're going to try, and I've met with our county treasurer and our county auditor on it. In the past, when we have needed additional funds for change at the fair, such as this coming weekend when we have the garage sale, we will need about approximately $1,500 for a very short period of time of about 7 days. Normally what we have done is brought a resolution back and forth every time we needed additional funds. This resolution is a little bit different. This one will authorize a transfer of up to $7,500 per event for a maximum of 30 days for that event. And this resolution will run for a period of 5 years. So what we're doing is some housekeeping items to meet the state auditor's requirements and not burden the board with small resolutions every few weeks. So,
Just to confirm, we had a water leak last Friday, and that's all repaired, will not interfere with this upcoming garage sale, correct?
that is correct. I think, I don't think, you and I had some correspondence on Saturday reference that water leak. The water leak was repaired at approximately 4 p.m. on Friday, and we were 100% operations right after that. So it was a significant leak. We, based upon meter readings, we figured we lost about 630,000 gallons of water. And a large portion of that, as we figured, did go underneath the asphalt and a few things like that. So we'll have some more repairs in the future, but it will not impact operations.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 6. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll be moving into the hearing section of our agenda. And our first hearing is on a non-exclusive franchise to AT&T Resolution number 15-115. May we first have a staff report, which will be followed by a question and answer period. Then we will close the question and answer period and open the hearing for formal testimony. And public testimony will last for 3 minutes and will be timed by Carrie. All right.
Larry Enzelman, Real Estate Services Manager, speaking to Resolution 15-115 in the matter of a non-exclusive license to AT&T Corporation to construct, operate, and maintain telecommunication facilities on Highway 603 right-of-way in Lewis County. This hearing to consider the non-exclusive license to AT&T would allow them to construct, operate, and maintain their telecommunication facilities on a portion of Highway 603, about 1.5 miles north of Winlock in Section 16, Township 12 North, Range 2 West. This license is actually a renewal for utilities that already exist in the right-of-way. The AT&T underground fiber telecommunication line is actually located on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad right-of-way, which lies just on the east side of Highway 603. And the fiber line crosses the highway to a site owned by AT&T on the west side of Highway 603. And then it crosses back to the fiber line on the railroad right-of-way and continues. The crossing of 603 is part of their overall fiber operation, and there's no local distribution of telecommunications at that site. This license is being proposed and would be granted pursuant to and conformance with RCW 36.55 and Lewis County Codes 12.25 through 12.50. Resolution 15-077, which was passed by this board on March 9th, set this date, April 6th, as a date for hearing on the matter and called for the required notifications. The RCW requires that no hearing be held on a proposed franchise until at least 5 days after the last publication date and 15 days after posting notice thereof in 3 public places. Publication is required twice in the official newspaper for publication in the county. Publication did occur on March 12th and March 19th of 2015 in the Chronicle. And notice of the license was posted in 3 public places. Affidavits are on file indicating compliance with the posting and publication requirements. The license has a 5-year term and has been sent out to the applicant, AT&T, for their review. They've accepted the terms, they've signed it, and have returned it. It's the recommendation of the Public Works Department that this license for telecommunication facilities on a portion of Highway 603 be granted to AT&T Corporation.
Thank you, Larry. Are there any questions from the board? Okay. Any questions and answers from the public they would like to put forward? Okay. So we'll close the question and answer period. Would you like your opening comments to be incorporated into the hearing, Mr. Unzelman?
Yes, I would like them incorporated, please.
Okay. So, looking for open public testimony, and there's no one who has signed up. I will close the hearing for public testimony. I'll call for the question.
Madam Chair, I move to approve resolution number 15115, granting the franchise to AT&T for this piece of property.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 15-115. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll go to the next hearing. So we're opening up the hearing ordinance 1257 pertaining to unmarked vehicles. As in the last hearing, we will first have a staff report, followed by a question and answer period. We will then close the question and answer period and open the hearing for formal testimony. Once again, 3 minutes will be your time for public testimony. And those citizens who are wanting to testify, if you have signed in on our sheet. Okay, staff report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. My name is Glenn Carter. I'm the Civil Deputy in the Lewis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. I have with me to my left Under Sheriff Wes Rethwell. I do want to mention that for purposes of the record and to have incorporated into the record a list of the letters that the board has received and that I've received over the course of the last several weeks. And so I want to be sure that we include all these in the record. We have new letters from a Kevin Schmadika. I don't know if I mispronounced that. It's Schmadeka, who is opposed to the proposed ordinance. A Mark Obtinario, Obtinario, Bernadine Ramey, Dan Townsend, who spoke at the last hearing as well, and who also sent a letter thereafter, which speaks to various issues with respect to the proposed ordinance that I can address. And a Thomas Dorink, which is D-O-R-I-N-K. Previously, I also want to note that we had letters and comments from Cindy Tickner, from Tim Elsey, from Brian Green, and also from Carrie Muir. So I would ask that all of those be incorporated into the record, Madam Chairman. Yes. Now, we have had 2 prior hearings with respect to Ordinance 1257, and I want to briefly, without boring everybody, try to quickly summarize what it is that Ordinance 1257 does, and there are some changes to it since the last time we were here. Specifically, there's a RCW, as they call it, a state statute that addresses publicly owned vehicles and requires them to be marked with certain exceptions. The state statute itself already provides, without any action by anybody in this, on this board, that the sheriffs and local police departments may already use unmarked vehicles for purposes of special, undercover, or confidential investigations. However, the state law provides that the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council can adopt exceptions to the marking requirements with respect to other activities. Those include exceptions that can be included are for general, confidential, and investigative activities. In addition, the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council can provide for unmarked cars to be used for traffic control. And then finally, the state statute provides that the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council can provide for other vehicles used for law enforcement, confidential public health work, and public assistance fraud or support investigative activities to use unmarked vehicles. There's no question, and some of the letters raise questions with respect to this statute, but there's no question that it is not the most elegantly stated statute that's ever been drafted by the state legislature. So there is some room for interpretation, and I understand that. But the request that has been made by the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office is to adopt exceptions, certain of those exceptions that are granted by the state law. How is this proposal today different than what we've proposed in the past? Specifically, you may recall that there was a great deal of discussion earlier on with respect to a provision in state law that also provided for the use of confidential plates upon the consent, the authorization of the Department of Motor Vehicles and the director of the Department of Motor Vehicles. And that provision is intended to provide some protection to folks who are employees of the government who are threatened. However, that provision received a great deal of comment, as you recall, at the first hearing and I believe also at the second hearing. And at the request of the board, it has been excised from the proposal so that that provision is no longer in proposed ordinance 1257. In addition, a change has been made to the proposed ordinance that tries to make clear what the intent of the legislative body is. The primary intent for purposes of having unmarked vehicles from the point of view of the sheriff's office is to have the ability to use unmarked vehicles with respect to confidential investigations, so that it's with the intent of using these vehicles dealing with drug houses and neighborhoods and being able to have vehicles in that neighborhood at the time of the investigation that are unmarked to enable the sheriff's office to undertake that operation for purposes of enforcing those laws against drugs or against human trafficking or against similar sorts of activities that do require the use of an unmarked vehicle in order for it to be confidential, and that people aren't going to see that, obviously, that they're being observed with respect to those crimes. That is the principal intent from the sheriff's office. And in order to have that right to do general confidential work like that, this ordinance must be adopted by this board under my interpretation of the law. Now, there's been a great deal of discussion with respect to traffic control. And in order to address that, in the proposed ordinance 1257, we've put in the statement of the purpose of this act for purposes of traffic control as it is addressed. We've made it clear, and this is what the statute says, or what our ordinance says, whereas RCW 4608065 also authorizes an exception from the marking requirement for sheriff's vehicles used in traffic control, and this is the part that's changed. It is not this board's or the sheriff's intention to routinely use unmarked vehicles for traffic enforcement. Unmarked vehicles may be used by the sheriff's office for traffic enforcement or control purposes as follows. 1, when a crime or traffic infraction is witnessed by or committed in the presence of a sheriff's deputy in an unmarked patrol vehicle, and such a vehicle is the closest or best available sheriff's vehicle to respond. 2, in special enforcement circumstances, such as when emphasis patrols are used to respond to specific reported criminal activity. Or 3, on occasions when there are not enough marked vehicles available to respond to a situation requiring traffic control. Part of the discussion that Mr. Townsend brought up, which is entirely appropriate discussion, is the deterrent effect of having marked vehicles. And there is no question that having marked vehicles out on our roads has a deterrent effect on people. And we understand that. But understand also, we're a county of 75,000 people covering, as I understand it, recall, the largest county in the state. And as a result, when you're out on the roads at night in the East County or in the West County, you'll remember that there's probably only one sheriff's vehicle in the West County and one sheriff's vehicle in the East County that's on patrol. There isn't a great deal of deterrent effect in what we can deploy in the way of sheriff's resources, because we have limited resources that we can apply. And actually, between the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office, we actually apply most of the resources of this county in the operating budget every year. I believe that's true.
Yes.
And so it's really, I don't know what kind of a deterrent effect we can really say is out on the road at night in our county by virtue of having our marked vehicles out there. The intent of this is not to put out more unmarked vehicles out on the road, but there may be an unmarked vehicle that can be used at night when called upon for purposes of investigative purposes. But all I'm trying to say is that we're a large county territorially, and we're a small county resource-wise, and we don't really have the ability to put out on the road a whole lot of marked vehicles to deter traffic infractions on 12 or 6 or 603 or other roads that we have responsibilities for. I don't think you're going to see that visible presence in the best of circumstances. But we have tried, through the board, to address the concern about traffic control and how people may impersonate a sheriff's office or a sheriff's deputy by using lights, which is illegal, Obviously, those are illegal. That isn't to say that it doesn't happen. I don't have personal knowledge of it happening, but I understand from folks that have testified that it has happened. But, you know, crimes happen, and we can't control that because human beings are involved. And I think that some folks that are much more wise than I am have testified from the sheriff's office and from the public about what to do if you have someone behind you who is not in a regular patrol vehicle, what to do at night or when it's raining to go to a lighted place, as I recall. I don't pretend to give advice on that, I don't know. But we recognize the issue, but we're trying to say, and the board's trying to say in this, that it is not the intent to use these unmarked vehicles for routine traffic control, and they won't be used for that purpose, but rather for the three exceptions that I've stated in there, which are basically that a crime occurs where an unmarked vehicle is located. And on occasions where, again, you have a trafficking issue or a drug house or something, and there are a whole lot of vehicles involved around that place in order to try to deal with the situation. So the wording of the statute is not as permissive to the county as it was before. We have stricken, at the request of the board, the provision dealing with confidential plates as approved by the director of the Motor Vehicle Department. And we also have inserted the language that makes it clear what the intent of this board is with respect to traffic control if they're ever used in that circumstance. And the other language is, I believe, everyone, I believe it follows what the state statute says. And so I'd be open to any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the board? Do we have any? Is there anybody that would like to have any question or question and answer period for them on this topic? Please come to the lectern and say your name and address. Thank you. In 3 minutes.
My name is Brian Green. I'm at 351 Burchett Road in Onalaska. And I'd like to know, what's with all the secrecy? What's with all the sneaking around? Aren't these things supposed to be public? When I was a child, my grandfather told me that police cars and the police were marked so that you could easily identify them if you needed them. But I don't see how all this sneaking around is going to help people. I mean, is this really a major drug hub? I mean, that's the excuse. I keep hearing you talk about drugs. And you also talk about, well, they'll help out, you know, of course. But, you know, I ran a FOIA request to the Sheriff's Department last year about unmarked cars. And they didn't have any kind of tracking on what they use those cars for. So they could be using them for traffic all the time to generate revenue. And I do think that is dangerous. You can go on eBay or Amazon, and for $15 you can get yourself a set of lights. And when I was selling cars in Tacoma, I actually saw some people that had them installed.
Excuse me, could you tell us once again your question that you have?
Oh, is an infraction a crime, sir?
I'm sorry.
So it's a crime, and you don't need a warrant to pull them over on a crime. You can just pull them over on an infraction and treat it like it's a crime. Is that correct? And in an unmarked car too? That's my question. Is that proper? Is an infraction a crime?
Please use the microphone, Wes.
That wasn't what I asked, sir.
What he is saying is that it's a civil infraction which is processed in the district court, and whether it's a crime or not, it's not a felony. It can be a misdemeanor.
Well, if you're not allowing them to go, then you're arresting them. Doesn't that require a warrant? I mean, or have you viewed them in the process of a crime, not an infraction? So why are you pulling them over in the first place and doing it with an unmarked car? That seems rather disingenuous to me. So I ask again, is an infraction a crime? And why would you treat it as a crime if it is not a crime?
It is treated as a misdemeanor. It is not treated as a felony. I think you're using the wrong term when you say crime.
So you're saying an infraction is not a crime. Well, you say that you need so you don't need a warrant or anything like that to pull them over? You can just do it. What's the probable cause on something like that?
If someone is driving recklessly on the road, they may be stopped without a warrant.
Okay, so that's if they're driving recklessly. So any other thing that's I mean, every little thing, they go over the line or something like that, so is that's an infraction. So without a warrant, is that right? And is that legal, properly, for you to pull them over and act like you are arresting them for a crime? That is my question, sir.
I think you've also lost the definition of the word arrest. Arrest is not pulling over.
If you are not allowed to reasonably, to leave a place, if you think you can't leave, then you are under arrest. That's been adjudicated over and over again, sir. So if someone wanted to leave,
I have never, ever heard anybody twist words so they're incomprehensible before as well as you do. I
really
cannot figure out exactly.
So you're saying that it is a crime? Is that what you're saying? I mean, these gentlemen want to go.
We've exceeded our 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay, and you haven't answered my question. You've been non-responsive. Thank you.
Any other questions? Please come forward, say your name and your address.
I'm passing this now.
Walt Wilson, 142 Hilly Drive, Chehalis. One question. The Board of Commissioners reserves the right to determine whether county vehicles are used for the purposes listed in the exceptions. Is the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's office, on an ongoing basis committed to notifying the county commissioners what cars are used for what purposes? If the county board has the right to say, no, you can't use that vehicle for that purpose, if they're not informed the vehicle is being used for that purpose, it's a moot point. That's my question, sir.
And that is a great question. And just in fact, less than a week ago, the sheriff and I met with the county commissioners. They have a full list of all our vehicles that would be considered unmarked, those that don't have the actual stickers on the side, but do have exempt plates, spotlights, antennas, and things of that nature. So they have a full list of those vehicles and who utilizes those vehicles and for what purposes.
Thank you. Does that apply also to the prosecutor's office, the juvenile justice system, and all the other people that will be allowed under this ordinance to use vehicles?
We actually, in the prosecutor's office, do not have an unmarked vehicle or a vehicle, and we don't plan on obtaining one. Even though the statute provides for that in the future, we don't have one.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Bozarth. You know the drill. Name, address, 3 minutes.
Bob Bozarth, 247-06 Woodard Road, Chehalis. Does the county have a policy for departments such as Public Works in having a standard marking on those vehicles?
I'm not aware of a standing marking, but I went out and asked our fleet director, our fleet manager, and walked through the parking lots looking at them, and the county cars, other than the sheriff's department, are all marked.
I would agree they're marked, but if there's one parked out there currently that does not have the county sticker on the doors on either side, and I was just wondering if there was a reason for that.
Which car was that?
Pardon me?
What car was that?
Well, to be blunt about it, it's Tim Elsie's.
That's a marked car.
It does not have county stickers on the doors. It does say for official use only. It does have exempt plates. It does have black letters on the back of the tailgate, which many other public works vehicles, as well as sheriff's department vehicles, are marked with black letters on tinted windows as far as the number system. And I was just curious if there's policy, and actually to be blunt about it, I don't have any idea why there would not be stickers on that public works vehicle.
I am not aware of a definition or an example or a policy that said you have to mark them this way?
It's currently in the state RCW.
We have marked cars in all of the departments except the sheriff. I guess I disagree with you what we consider a marked car or not.
Well, I guess it's becoming more of a gray area all the time. And to the point, I would think employees of this county would be excited to announce that they work for this county, particularly in the Public Works Department. I can't understand why they wouldn't put Lewis County stickers on their vehicles. Are they embarrassed with their job? Are they embarrassed to drive a new car?
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Mr. Townsend? Name, address, 3 minutes.
Dan Townsend, 2416 Seward Avenue. I didn't have any questions until you answered one. So now that we know that there's a list out there, it begs the question, how many sheriff's office vehicles do we have, and how many are unmarked?
Answer.
Currently, right now, the sheriff's office has 4 vehicles that are considered unmarked, in that they have cold plates on them that don't come back to the sheriff's office. They don't have any markings which would make them readily identifiable as being a police-type vehicle. 2 of those 4 vehicles do have interior lights, and they're daily driven by our detective sergeant and one of our detectives. The other 2 vehicles are, for lack of better words, they would be pool cars, and they're utilized for certain times when surveillance needs to be done, and also if one of our detectives needs to go out and do some sort of undercover work, either to purchase narcotics or other evidence to further an investigation. Aside from those 4 vehicles, and of which one of those is going to be turned in here probably within the next 2 months. So that'll put us down to 3 vehicles that are totally unmarked. We have 2 additional vehicles, one of which is a pool car that is used by our jail staff. It could be used for transporting prisoners, say to Western State, to another facility. If officers are going to training, they utilize that vehicle as well. The second vehicle in that category is utilized by our volunteers. As you well know, the Sheriff's Office has a number of volunteers that do work for us out in the public, whether it would be house checks or something of that nature. We provide a vehicle to them. However, we do not want them in a marked vehicle. They are volunteers. They're not fully commissioned officers. They're not paid employees. We do not want to bring attention to them while they're out and about because they have no police powers to act on a situation. We have 16 other vehicles that I considered as marked vehicles, although they are not striped on the side of the cars. Ms. Muir, if you could bring those pictures up for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I apologize they're not a little bit bigger, but this is one of the vehicles right there. Oh, very good. You can see that it has exempt plates. You can see that there's a couple strobe lights that are up in the grill. You can't readily see very well, but on the as you're facing the picture, upper left-hand corner, there's a visor light in there. You can see the big antenna on the roof, and you can see the spotlight that is on the driver's side. If you can go to the next picture, please. That is the same vehicle to the side. Again, does not have the marks on the side. It has a siren to it. It has emergency lights which fit within the statute of having a marked patrol vehicle. There's nothing in the statute that says that you have to have stickers on the side of the car. Please go to the next picture. This is with the lights on. Unfortunately, it's just a still picture, so you don't get to see the full effect of the lights, but you can see one of the blue strobes in the grille of the car, and then you can see the red strobe that would be on the visor light to that vehicle. If you go to the next picture, please. This is a different type vehicle that we have in our fleet. You can see the big push bumpers that's on this vehicle. You can see the strobe lights there. Down in the lower right corner, you can see the siren. Also has a spotlight on the side of the car. If you would go to the next picture. Again, does not have the stickers on it. Fully marked vehicle in that it has the exempt plates. It has interior lights. You can see the spotlight on the car, and you can see the antenna on the hood. Next picture, please. Again, a still picture, so you don't get the full effect of the lights to the vehicle, but you can see the interior blue strobe light and the exterior strobe lights that are on the push bars. Next picture, please. Looks like the exact same vehicle. However, if we move to the next picture, this vehicle has the markings on the side. This is a majority of what our fleet is right now. Most people are familiar with the older striping on our vehicles that have the green and the gold. When Sheriff Snaza came in, he wanted to change the look of our patrol vehicles, and this is the current striping package that we're going to. You can also see that this vehicle has an exterior light bar. And I believe there's one more after that. And that shows the vehicle with the lighting package. So we have 16 vehicles in our fleet that are similar to those first two vehicles that I showed here, that have the interior lighting capabilities, they have the exempt plates, they have spotlights on them, they have the big antenna on them. They just don't have the stickers on the side of the car indicating that's a sheriff's office vehicle. I can tell you just within the last few weeks, the very first set of pictures that we showed, which was on a Chevrolet Impala. One of our chief deputies was in Chehalis, and there was a vehicle collision. She was in a private parking lot, and there was a vehicle collision about 2 blocks away at an intersection. Chehalis Police Department was en route to the collision scene, but between the time that they arrived at the scene, no less than 3 people came up to her from 3 different directions, knew that she was in a patrol car, and told her about that collision that was in that intersection. She obviously went to the intersection. She provided traffic control until Chehalis was there. So it was pretty clear that people readily identified that vehicle that she was in as being a patrol vehicle, although it didn't have the sheriff's markings on the side. Just this morning, Chief Kimsey was on his way into work. He drives the second series of pictures that we looked at, one of the Interceptor utilities that didn't have the markings on the side. He drives one of those vehicles, and he had a number of people that waved at him on the way into work. Didn't know who he was, but obviously recognized it as a patrol vehicle and waved at him. So I know there's concerns out there about how much marking should be on the vehicles. We are not utilizing these type vehicles on a daily basis to go out and make traffic stops. But rest assured, it's very, very important that if a violation is committed in front of our officers and they happen to be driving one of these vehicles, it is our expectation, mine and the sheriff's, that our officers act on those violations. I myself have been in that very situation. On my way home at night, minding my own business, just trying to get home, and I've had people pass me on the freeway at very, very high rates of speed. One of them actually happened to be a DUI. Unfortunately, there weren't marked officers that were readily available to make that stop, and I had to act on that stop. We will utilize these vehicles sparingly. It's important for us to have these vehicles available as a tool in our toolbox to investigate certain situations, whether it be where we're receiving large amounts of traffic complaints or, as was stated by Mr. Carter, narcotics investigations, things of that nature, or just to utilize them so that we do not bring attention to ourselves or bring attention to those individuals that maybe we have to go out and take statements from. It can be oftentimes very, very embarrassing for a marked patrol vehicle to pull up, depending on the investigation, to pull up in front of someone's house because word gets out. And we want to try and protect not only our officers, but we want to also try and protect those citizens in those unique set of circumstances.
Dan.
Boy, that was a great answer, one. The only thing I missed was the total number of patrol vehicles.
The total number of vehicles that are unmarked are 4 vehicles for us.
No, I mean total.
Oh, total number of vehicles? Boy, I'd be taking a shot in the dark saying we have probably 70 vehicles in our fleet.
70?
Yeah, I would say.
Thank you very much. That was a great answer.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Averill.
Ron Averill, Centralia. Of the 4 cars that you have 2 had lights interior and 2 did not.
That is correct. The vehicle that is assigned to our detective sergeant has interior lights, and one of our detectives also has interior lights. The other two are...
So under your internal rules then, only those 2 cars would be used to pull over on a traffic.
That is not their primary function, but if a situation would arise, yes, they could.
But the 2 that have no interior lights would not be?
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Name, address, 3 minutes.
Good morning. I'm Tammy Bozar, 247-06 Woodward Road, Chehalis. Forgive me, is it Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Okay. You earlier stated about the expense of marking these vehicles, and I know that through time there's going to be more and more vehicles that do come into the fleet, new vehicles. So it's a concern that, you don't want to put these markings on the cars because of, quote, expense. Does the Sheriff's Department have in place, per se, we will have X amount of cars with this so-called marking and another percentage of cars with the full markings, or is that something that's just going to happen through time?
Yeah, we don't have anything in place saying that X amount of vehicles in our fleet are going to have markings or not have markings. I can tell you that right now, that current striping scheme that you saw in those last set of pictures, that costs about $500 to do that. An exterior light bar that you saw in that last picture is about $3,000. To do interior lights on a vehicle, you're probably looking at anywhere from $800 to $1,000, depending on the amount of lights that you put in. So it is substantially cheaper to not go with the exterior light bar, but go with lights on the inside. And obviously, there is a cost factor to put that striping scheme on the outside of cars.
Wes, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt, but I think what she's saying is, do you have a policy that right now you have 16 of these cars or 14 of these cars that don't have the decals on the outside and another 60 that do have it, and do you have a policy? And actually you do, because your detectives and your admin staff are the ones that get the one without the decal. All the patrol individuals, all the patrol officers do have the decal.
That is correct, but it's not a written policy.
It's not a written policy, but it's a policy that you have. Detectives and admin get unmarked or decal-less cars, and everybody else gets a decal. So you do have an unwritten rule.
Yes.
Okay, so clarify for me, the picture that we're looking at.
Yes.
Oh, no, let's go back. The one that doesn't say sheriff on it, is that for patrol purposes?
If you can go back to that picture.
Yeah, any of them that don't say sheriff but are, quote, marked because they had the exempt plates, are those for patrol purposes?
No, that is not their primary function.
Okay, and, oh, here today, gone today. Never mind. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay.
Ma'am, if I can just clarify.
Okay.
That is not their primary function, is patrol, but 2 of those vehicles are assigned to our patrol commander and our chief of field operations or our chief of patrol, but those are not their primary functions.
Thank you. I would like to close the question and answer period. And Under Sheriff Rethwell and Mr. Carter, would you like your remarks to be included into the hearing?
Yes, ma'am, I would. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chairman, thank you.
Okay. Now I'd like to open the hearing for public testimony. And once again, state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes. And Joe Coleman.
I am Joe Coleman. I live at 1015 North Pearl, Centralia. I still have the same concerns that I had the first time I came and spoke. I do not like unmarked police cars making routine traffic stops. I think it's dangerous. Like you said, we have a big county. There's a lot of roads that are removed. And you can say use your cell phone, smartphone, elect, but we all know how many dead zones there are. Okay, you get way in the boonies and you're coming, it's a 2-lane road, you get stopped. They said just go slow to the next lighted area. Have you ever been in Raymond coming back this way at night, late at night, by yourself? I just think this is not needed. And I know if you make an exception, it's just like taxes. There's going to be a loophole, and we're not going to be happy. I've never saw anybody that brought a tax in didn't want to keep it. We don't get rid of it. Okay. Then we go to the darkened windows. I really do not like this because if somebody's right next to you, it doesn't even have to be a police officer. They could have a gun sighted right on you, say it's a gang member if they didn't like you. By the time you realized, if you did realize, you'd be dead. They could just shoot you. And it scares me with the darkened windows. It always has. This is one of the reasons why I really don't like that. And as a senior citizen, I take precautions when I drive at night. I lock my doors. I try to be very careful, but there's just times that you're coming back from somewhere on a back road and it's dark. Now, the police officer said that, you know, you only have so many police cars for how many miles for Lewis County. Okay, on Easter, I came back, it was about 6:30, and my daughter lives up next to George Gill Drilling. Between her house and where you get down to the industrial park, I passed 2 deputy sheriffs waiting to give somebody a ticket, and I'm so glad I don't speed, because I think the ones behind me were probably very grateful too, because they didn't get tickets either because they were stuck behind me. But now that's a very short piece of mileage, and there was not 1 but 2. That was on Easter. For a routine traffic stop, I don't think this is needed. I think for protection, for undercover work, yes, I think it's needed. But I still have issues with this, and I guess maybe I don't trust government. I'm old enough to know you can't always trust government. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Roy.
Hi. My name is Robin Roy. I live at 186 Calvin Road in Cinnabar. And this is my 3rd time in front of the Lewis County Commissioners, speaking in opposition of using the unmarked cars and traffic enforcement. And to kind of take off where you left off, it comes down to a matter of trust. I am supposed to trust that when I am pulled over by an unmarked car, that it really is a police car. And I am supposed to trust that person approaching my car, who may or may not be in uniform, is a police officer. I'm supposed to trust that it is not some felon who intends to rob me or rape me or kill me. If I am so concerned that I drive on, I need to trust that the judge is not going to hold me further accountable for driving on and not stopping when I see a police officer light in my rearview mirror. Furthermore, if I try to call, I'm supposed to trust that that's going to be okay with a judge that I've unlawfully used a cell phone while driving. Furthermore, I'm supposed to trust that our public officials would not be using the unmarked cars for their personal business. And yet, when I pay my income taxes, they don't trust me to be honest. I have to have verification that that's how much money I earned and how much taxes I need to pay. And furthermore, when I am pulled over, a police officer does not trust me. I can't say, well, of course I have a license and insurance. I have to verify it. I have to prove who I am and that I am legally entitled to be driving that vehicle and that I'm insured. It all comes down to a matter of trust. And in my 61 years, as time goes by, I tend to trust less and want verification more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Emil Berg.
Good morning. My name's Emil Berg, and I live at 117 McLaughlin Road in Winlock, Washington. And I'm here to encourage you to vote against this. I'm a veteran, and I am outraged at what's happening with my federal government, my state government, and my county government. This ordinance and our government, all they want to do is stick their foot in the door. Put their foot in the door, get it bigger, make something happen. And I'm outraged. I mean, it's time that we started standing up. And I'm very upset at my county. I thought we had elected people that would stand up for freedom. I want you to vote no on this, ordinance number 1257. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernie Rogers.
Bernie Rogers, 139 Otter Creek Drive in Toledo. What I was going to say has been a change. The lady who just spoke, I had made a note, and it really does come down to trust. And what Emil just talked about, we've lost trust in a lot of government and government officials in D.C. And if we trusted all of you, as we should, we wouldn't even have this discussion. I have heard that this is a lighthouse decision, that what happens here will probably be followed throughout the state. And at this point, I'm not really sure what is really on the paper. I don't hear as well as I used to, and I don't read as fast as I guess I should. And I know the purpose of unmarked, cars, in my opinion, it's for law enforcement. It's to catch drivers who are committing violations. When drivers see a fully marked car, they instinctively slow down and they evaluate how they are driving. But you have to have unmarked cars to do surveillance, and I understand that. There you go again, it's trust. If I worked for a school district in California, and there we used our own vehicles when we go to meetings, and we had a stipend, and that's the way that worked. I would rather see a car with signage if you're going to go to a meeting. I think it's good to show people that this is Lewis County and you're participating in something. It's to expand your knowledge and to do a better job. So I'm not against unmarked vehicles, but it's a matter of trusting all of the government that we have. And I don't know how we bridge that gap, because we've had so many bridges that have been torn down. So the information I have is from different places, Ohio, and concealed and not concealed, but I think this lady hit it on the head, and all I can do is ask, for you to use your honesty and trust and represent the people, and I know that's part of your, when you take an oath, it's something like, I will serve and protect. And I guess I'll leave it there that I hope this is the county. I've always had good faith in the county, but as Emil just spoke, you lose a lot of faith with government, and it trickles on down. So God be with you and help to watch over us too.
Thank you, Bernie. Jude Cooper.
I'm Jude Cooper. I live at 102 Cooper Drive in Onalaska. Those last few people are kind of a hard act to follow, but what they've said, I think, represents a lot of people, not just seniors, not just politicians, not just sheriff department. I'm against the unmarked cars. The cars that you show me that are supposed to be unmarked, I wouldn't recognize if I was driving. People who have to know what these cars look like do. People who are law-abiding citizens, they don't know what this is. There could be anybody in those cars. I would hope also that you do represent the people that elected you and vote no on unmarked cars.
Walt Wilson.
Hi, I'm Walt Wilson. I live at 142 Hilly Drive here in Chehalis, and I'd like to make just a couple real brief comments. I think in paragraph 2, sheriff's vehicles used for traffic control, I think it should say sheriff's vehicles are prohibited from routine traffic control, not as the undersheriff gave a great example. There are times the unmarked cars are going to have to stop people. Okay, that's the exception. But if you put not allowed for routine traffic patrol, I think that's going to alleviate a lot of the concerns here. Paragraph 3, you can drive a truck through this. I'm sorry. Our prosecutor says we don't have any unmarked vehicles. Next week they could, and it could change. The juvenile court services, other county personnel, used for law enforcement purposes, including but not limited to confidential public health work or public assistance, fraud, or support for investigative purposes. Hell, you could drive a tank. You don't need a truck. That's so broad and so vague. Anytime in the future, one of these organizations decides they need an unmarked vehicle, they're going to get one. Last point, I asked about the county commissioner's supervision. I want to point out under the current, I think it's merit service protection, civil service laws in Washington, what are you going to do when you find out that the head of the juvenile court's driving an unmarked car completely? You're going to tell him don't do it. And if he doesn't, you have no comeback. You know, there is no way you are going to be able to effectively discipline any employee who disregards this ordinance. That's really the key to me. It allows somebody with, for whatever reason, to say, I don't have to do that, and you as county commissioners and the civil service system does not allow you to effectively discipline them. I want to hear, or I would like to see, or I'd like to imagine the hearing judge or arbitrator, well, the director of Public Works decided he was not going to put this on there, and you're going to fire him? He's done a great job and everything else, and this is a county ordinance? I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of loopholes in this, and I think 99% of the employees are going to abide by it, but you're going to get a bad apple. It always works that way, and that's the reason we're here. That's the reason Robin is afraid at night, because there is those examples of bad apples. Laws don't stop good people from doing good things. They don't stop bad people from doing bad things. They have to be reasonable, and when you have a bad law, it affects good people. And I think this is going to be a bad ordinance. I want to see the sheriff's office continue to use the cars properly. They do. The rest of this, I think it should be marked. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. Tammy Bozarth.
Good morning again. Tammy Bozar, 247-06 Woodward Road, Chehalis. First of all, I'm very disturbed at what my interpretation of a marked vehicle is and what I guess a true definition of a marked vehicle is. I always interpreted marked as having the signage on the side. My concerns, everyone talks about traffic and being pulled over at night. If I call, I live in the Sheriff's Department's jurisdiction. I'm not in city, I'm in county. If I call and I need them to come, I want to know when I look out my door and I see a car in my driveway that I don't have to get a magnifying glass to see if it says exempt. I want to see that that's a sheriff's car. I don't know if they come to my door with their ID and their badge and says, this is who I am. I have no idea what your ID looks like. I could probably make one on a computer. I want to see that signage. I want to see and know that who is coming to my door is truly who I called. I also think that if a county is becomes known for having a lot of unmarked vehicles, it does open the door to those that want to go out and prey on unsuspecting people because they say, oh, well, these people are conditioned. This is what they're looking for. They don't expect, so they're going to pull over or they're going to open their door. But finally, I taught my children, and I'll teach my grandchildren, just as their parents would teach them, that when you need help, and today even, if I need help, I look for those cars that stand out, that say, this is here, who I am here to help you. My grandchildren are not going to go up to a license plate and say, oh, it's exempt. They're going to say, oh, that car looks like mommy or daddy's because it's a Chevy or it's this or it's that. There's nothing there to clarify. I am not downplaying the sheriff's safety, and I am not by any means saying that your job is not important or very valued, but I'm also saying that mine, my children, and most certainly my grandchildren's safety is just as important. So therefore, Commissioners, I implore to you that you deny this unmarked request. Thank you.
Dan Townsend.
Dan Townsend, 2416 Seward Avenue, Centralia. I really didn't even want to come testify today. You know, I was really hoping we get this thing to bed. I was disappointed that we took what in negotiations we'd call throwaway items and use them as an example of where we've done something on this. For example, I'm disappointed that you no longer have the ability to issue confidential plates. I can see a situation where a prosecutor or a sheriff or a county commissioner may find themselves in a situation where confidential plates may become an important part of their life. So I don't know why we just throw that away. I find most impressive the women's testimony today. And I think if we were going to listen to the testimony that's been given, I don't care if all the cars are unmarked. Personally, you're not going to pull me over. I mean, I would pay $100 to watch you guys pull over one of these angry bees zipping down the freeway at 100 miles an hour in an unmarked car. I'd love that. You know? That's really not the issue. Iowa solved the issue. At least to me, it's not the issue. This is the issue right here. Coming home late at night from Raymond. Coming home late at night from Packwood. Have some assurance, put those lights on the top. I heard tonight we only have 2 county sheriff's cars on the road at night, but we've got 70 cars. Iowa has adopted ordinances that says you will not be pulled over by an unmarked police car after the daylight hours. Ohio has said we won't use unmarked police cars for traffic. State of California for 80 years has not used unmarked cars for traffic. But me personally, I'm not even asking for that. I don't care. I was taught to drive by Doug Knudsen, you know, and better obey the laws or you're going to get pulled over, you know. So I just kind of go down that road. So it's not really a big issue to me. But I think of my, you know, if I'm a woman coming home late at night, it just seemed like such a small give to say with 70 vehicles. I mean, these are nice cars. I mean, they're perks, you know, they're nice cars. And I think they use them responsibly. No issue. Why couldn't we say in our ordinance, I mean, the whereas and the resolutions and all that, that's throwaway stuff. The only thing that matters is the ordinance. And the ordinance is clear. Sheriff vehicles used for traffic control. They're all exempt. What happens if we get a new sheriff 4 years from now and he decides I want them all unmarked?
Sorry.
You just pass an ordinance that says he can do that. You know, maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not. I'd be thrilled if you would just not use unmarked cars at night for traffic control. I'd be thrilled, you know.
Thanks.
That's the short and long of it, I guess, the long of it.
Wrong, okay, thanks. Bob Bozarth.
Bob Bozarth, 247-06 Woodard Road in Chehalis. Well, they say the third time's a charm. Let's hope we can put this thing to rest. In all three stages of this hearing, there has been overwhelming testimony opposed to unmarked vehicles being used for traffic control. Commissioner Schulte, on at least one occasion, you have also stated that you are opposed to unmarked vehicles being used for traffic control. In part two of this hearing, Sheriff Snozza stated that detectives don't always wear uniforms. However, you can ask them for their ID. That may be a little bit too late if you're dealing with an imposter. Mr. Carter has stated, unless you pass this ordinance, traffic control with unmarked vehicles will not be authorized for use in Lewis County. It is also clear to me that we are going outside the boundaries of the state RCW. There's other concerns as well. The state RCW does not address county jail personnel, prosecuting attorney's office, or the juvenile court services the use of unmarked vehicles, whereas the proposed ordinance does. This opens the door for unmarked vehicles being used for personal use at the taxpayer's expense. Not all of us know the faces of our employees in Lewis County, so it would be very difficult at best to detect if unmarked vehicles are being used for business or pleasure. In all three segments of this hearing, we have not heard testimony from the prosecuting attorney's office or the sheriff's office, convincing me that unmarked vehicles are imperative to keeping the peace in Lewis County. Please remember that we are dealing with the issue today. People come and go in these positions, so so the ordinance that you are considering must be descriptive enough to cover events in the future. And frankly, this one is not. If there's a doubt, throw it out. We are blessed that our form of government is still a republic. What we are seeing here today is the balance of powers at work. Passing legislation was never designed to be easy or simple. And it seems that we have a disconnect between the spoken word and what's being put on paper in this ordinance.
Time's up, Bob.
Therefore, I ask you to do the right thing and vote no on this ordinance.
Thank you, Bob. Ann Aho.
I'm Ann Aho. I live on North Fork Road. The address I gave you is a mailing address. There's been lovely measured statements, but I'm going to address the emotion of the issue. If one of these cars that's unmarked were attempting to stop me for any reason, day or night, you're not going to stop me. No matter what it's for. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to run. And I'm going to run because I can't trust anymore. I can't trust any government, and it has gotten increasingly worse. If I wanted to live in Russia, China, North Korea, all right, I'll move there. And that's the kind of government I would expect to have. But to have an unmarked car, and I can't see who's driving, whether they've got a uniform, I haven't got time to see what the license plate says, or if there's fancy lights in the grill or inside, I've just got to drive. And now I'm a criminal, because I've run. Now that's one issue. The other one that you've got, you keep talking about using these unmarked cars to get drug interdiction. I've got a drug house about 3/4 of a mile away from me. I don't know if they've stopped dealing drugs. I don't have any teenagers because the teenagers are the ones that know where they're at. They've tried time and time and time again to take that operation down. With unmarked cars, they can't get off Jackson Highway before those drug dealers know that they're coming. Talk to the old officers. That's no excuse for doing something that's frankly illegal. Thank you. Please vote it down.
Ron Averill.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm Ron Averill, 2523 Graff Road, Centralia, Washington. On the internet, there was a very long article put out about this particular hearing that we're having today, and the statement that there was only one person that didn't agree with the people who have testified up to this point. And I am that person. I would tell those of you here that decided you're going to throw your country's flag on the thing and claim that you're a veteran and that this was not a free country. I also am a veteran of 30 years, 2 combat tours. There is no one here that's trying to deprive your freedom. This is a law that already exists on the books. The Revised Code of Washington, that is the law of the state of Washington. If you want to change that law, go to your legislature. This originally came up because in a court, the enforcement of the law was challenged because the county had not put it into its ordinances, which are the law of the county. And that's what we're trying to do today. The only thing, this law does not relate only to traffic stops. And I empathize with those of you who might be concerned about someone stopping you. But when we talk unmarked cars, I come up from California. I got to tell you, there aren't very many cars out there that are law enforcement. I can't tell you when I look at them that they're law enforcement. But the reason we have them is because this country has become dangerous. Because we have to take extraordinary measures to protect you. And I can tell you as a political scientist, taught political science for many years, that the principal job of your local government is to provide for public order and your safety. And that will take some extraordinary measures. Without that, it is you who have the possibility of having to endure dangers that might otherwise be prevented. I think that our Sheriff's Department and our commissioners have gone out of their way to accommodate your gravest concerns. You've been told that this is used seldom. We need this in order to be able to help you in the court, and I urge that you pass it.
Thank you. The last one is Brian Green.
Well, the problem here, as usual, is accountability. And this, the country, there's a big problem with police not being accountable. It seems to me that the only people that are really for this are people that are somehow benefiting. Otherwise, the people do not want this at all. I say you should vote against it. And if there is some sort of unmarked cars for legitimate purposes, there should be some sort of accountability for that. Like I said, I ran a public records request. They don't even keep how many hours they use these cars for anything. They don't keep a track of what they do with them. So if they're going to use these things, there should be some sort of tracking for that. Because right now they could be using them all for traffic. And why would they want to hide that? Why wouldn't they disclose that? I'm sure there must be a logbook somewhere. Anyway, so I would say vote against this thing, and I think it's a very bad idea. And I think the cars should be marked a little bit better than are marked. It looks like they're trying to go to a little bit more stealth, and I don't think hiding and sneaking around is the job of our Sheriff's Department. So I say vote no, please.
Thank you. Is there anyone else out there who would like to say more testimony? Okay. Mr. Elsey.
Hi, Tim Elsey, 110 Deerfield Place, Chehalis, Washington. It's just been brought up a couple of times today that a vehicle that I drive or public works vehicles are not marked legally, and I just want to go on record saying that my vehicle is and has been marked legally. And if I can read from the RCW, it says, it is unlawful for any public officer having charge of any vehicle owned or controlled by any county, city, town, or public body in the state other than the state of Washington and used in public business to operate the same upon the public highways of the state unless and until there shall be displayed upon automobile or other motor vehicle in letters of contrasting color not less than 1 1/4 inches in height in a conspicuous place on the right and left sides thereof the name of such county, city, town, or other public body, together with the name of the department or office upon the business of which the said vehicle is used. And my vehicle has been marked that way since I've had the vehicle. All vehicles in public works are marked in accordance with the law. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the hearing for public testimony. Comments from the board?
I'd just like to make a couple of comments. One is, I do not intend, and this ordinance does not intend to encourage unmarked vehicles to do traffic stops. However, even in the Sheriff's Department, 80% of their vehicles are marked. If you go county-wide, it's almost 95% of our vehicles are marked. The Sheriff's Office is the only one that has unmarked vehicles. You're right, it's a matter of trust, but the trust is we are adopting state law. Some of the wording in the state law, as the prosecutor's office said in Glenn Carter, the state law is not the best written law. We can't go back in and change state law. That has to be a state legislature. We adopt state law. We're the smallest subdivision of the state, and we enforce state law. We did go through there and clarify what our intent was, which was not to use these for traffic stops, routine traffic stops. And we went in there and said, if we need cold plates, as Mr. Townsend said, we can still get those if we go to the state and ask the state patrol and the director of licensing for a cold plate. That's not something we're going to do in the county. That's a state law, and that's a state-controlled process. It is my intent today to adopt state law to provide operating instructions and guidelines to our Sheriff's Department. There is oversight of the Sheriff's Department, but it's not from the county commissioners. In county government, all elected officials are at the same level. We are all accountable. The sheriff is accountable, the commissioners are accountable to the public. So we have very clearly said we do not intend to use this law for routine traffic enforcement. If you don't trust us and that trust is not there, make your will known at the next election, because I firmly believe the sheriff has no intent to use unmarked cars for traffic stops. He told me when somebody passed him at a high rate of speed and he was in his marked car, it just didn't have the decals on the side, he pulled him over and said, "What are you thinking going 100 miles an hour down the freeway blowing by me?" I expect my police officers to take my safety into account when they transit our roads, and I trust that they'll do that. Thank you.
Commissioner Stamper.
Just a couple things here. We have had, for the last 2 months, we have had ongoing dialogue about this. The meetings have been once a week. We have an open discussion. The meeting's open, and through the Sheriff's Department, along with other agencies, come in and we have extensive talks about this. These are open meetings, and so through training, public awareness, and as a county commissioner and also a citizen of this county for 61 years, I trust our law enforcement to make the right decisions. We do not live in a perfect world. We see corruption. There's no question about it. But one of the things that I've always felt very, very positive about is the fact that I could go to my elected officials, and if I have a concern about it, I will be heard. And that's the democratic process. And I have a family here. I grew up here, and we have had different situations. We all have with law enforcement. And I have felt very, very confident. I have not felt threatened by our law enforcement. Now, we know that there's bad apples in every basket, so to speak. But I trust our Sheriff's Department to do everything possible to make the right decisions. And I think passing this ordinance is probably the right decision at this point in time.
Thank you. So my comments, and just to add to what the prior commissioners have said, we've had meetings, we've adjusted. I think we've really appreciated the input from individuals, and we have a better product than we had at the beginning. I would think all of you would agree. We've moved forward. I'd like to say that at every sheriff's update, I ask how many stops were made with an unmarked vehicle, don't I, Wes? And a month ago was 0. This month was 1, and it was you. So we do have that on the top of our agenda when we have the updates. What is the status? How many people have been pulled over? As a county commissioner, we want people to be safe in our county. And I agree with the ladies out front. I drive late at night, up and down from Packwood, from PL, and I know what it's like out there. And I have a cell phone that does not, I have AT&T, and you can tell me I don't have a lot of reception. But if I can say that there is an unmarked vehicle that has stopped somebody and pulled them over who was going 100 miles an hour down the road, thank you very much. I think we need more education about how to protect ourselves. And having attended the most recent meeting at Salcombe, that we had our prosecutor and our sheriff talking about safety in our community, we have to be ever vigilant. And if we said no to this, do you think that would stop anybody from trying to do bad acts just because we said no on marked vehicles? I don't think so. I'd rather have those 2 vehicles out there helping me. And when I looked at some of those vehicles that, when we're at Salcombe, one of those unmarked vehicles was in the parking lot, and some of the public said, "So that's an unmarked vehicle? Looks like a cop car to me." So it's like training, what does it mean for us when we're out there? What is a good vehicle that we feel comfortable being pulled over? And I'm with you, Mrs. Aho, saying, if I don't trust that car, if I don't have a good feeling about it, I'm driving to where there's people around. I'm driving to where there's light. I will be proactive because I feel that's the right thing to do for my personal safety. But I believe with 2 unmarked vehicles out there, out of 70, that is a good way to protect ourselves and our kids out there. And I'm thinking about, teaching our grandkids and what we can do. Personal safety is a big item, and if you don't feel safe, do something about it. But I think for the total good for Lewis County, to keep us safe and to be vigilant, we need our pros out there on the road. I know the sheriff's office does a lot of work in doing background checks, interviewing. In fact, sometimes we can't get good applicants because they fail the background check. We do a really good job in this, and I say we, I mean you guys, do a really good job of having good folks out there. And if they're not out there, they won't be there for long. So I appreciate the safety you provide me and my family. And I too would be voting for this. I've talked to Sheriff Snaza that when he has future public meetings to talk about public safety. What's going to make us women feel comfortable? How can we feel comfortable when we're on the road? And I know I have some things in my car that help me stay safe. So with that, any other additional comments?
Madam Chair, I move to approve Ordinance 1257 pertaining to unmarked vehicles.
I second the ordinance.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Ordinance 1257. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And if any of you would like to talk with us afterward, we will be here to talk with you and have further discussions. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, with no further business, I move we adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.